Speaker wire is your friend. Get a good one, or your music is going to sound like crap. Good afternoon, my fellow monks, and welcome back to another video with the Monkey Something Sensei. And that impromptu little clip was a PSA for all of you music listeners who have had the same speaker wire for many, many years. I've had the speaker wire before I replaced this one for about 5 years now, and I don't have any pics, but it was chewed up. It was deteriorating. It did not look good in the slightest. So I upgraded. My father and I went to Walmart yesterday and bought this. This is a revelation. You wouldn't think that speaker wire be this big thing, but no, it really improves the sound. So I got the Monster 100 foot, which is way too much. I mean, the thing is heavy. I mean, there's not much distance. I don't need that much, but it's amazing. Suffice it to say, I had to come on the camera and talk about not just the speaker wire, but the album I just listened to after hooking the speaker wire up. Now, my dad came over yesterday. He lives in Connecticut, so it took him a couple hours to get down here. We went down to Walmart because I told him my audio setup wasn't sounding that great. It was kind of trebly. There wasn't a lot of bass. The vocal was just screeching in my ear. The whole nine. So, little story time here. So we go down to Walmart. We looking down all the aisles. He doesn't know where anything is. And I know where some stuff is, but I don't really know where the back, where all the speaker equipment and stuff is. But lo and behold, we find this on the sidewall, right in the middle of all the HDMI cables and stuff. And trust me, there's a lot of aisles with phone chargers and phone cables and Ethernet cables. It's a nightmare. This was kind of buried in between all of that and the DVD and Blu-ray players. But we found it. This is about 1647. And it's very thick and sturdy speaker wire. So we get home. My dad is cutting it because I know nothing about this. He's really the audio guy in the family. He's cutting the speaker wire up. I'm unhooking the old stuff. I seriously, like, he takes the speaker wire out of the back of the receiver and the back of the speakers, and it was not a pretty sight. Like I was saying before, it was just chewed up. It was just withering away. It was like it got Thanos in a matter of like 2 seconds. It was so thin. And then he started twisting up the new stuff and cutting it. And he hooks it up. I'm hooking it up with him because I'm trying to really learn how to do it myself. So in case I have to move this around or put it in another room or whatever, I'll know how to do it. So we get all set up. He comes down. He has the new Beatles Red and Blue album. So we put that on. And that was just a revelation. He has the 2 vinyl set, or the 4 vinyl set with the slipcase. His girlfriend actually bought it for him. And he didn't even want to listen to it until he came down to the house. So that was nice of him to wait to kind of peel his ears back and listen to it for the first time with me. I opened it for him because I'm more of the vinyl opener kind of thing. When it comes to new vinyl, it's more my thing. He's more into the old vinyl, the bootlegs, that whole thing. He's a 70s and 80s kind of guy. So we listened to it, and it blew me away. Instantly. But I don't really want to talk about the Beatles right now. That's another time. But suffice it to say, this definitely helps. Speaker wire is your friend, and you got to get yourself a good one. What I really want to talk about today was the first album that I put on for my own listening. Just myself and Getty, who's over there sleeping. But I'm sure he enjoyed it, because this is his favorite band too. And I'm talking about Rush. Fly By Night. Yes, this is the meditation with vinyl. I'm not just talking about speaker wire, but I had to put this album on. I felt the urge to listen to some classic, rockin' early Rush, and this to me really fits the bill. I do want to give a quick shout out to Rush's debut album though. I'm not talking about it here because I don't own it on vinyl yet. I've actually not listened to any CDs with this new speaker wire and this whole new setup and all the equalizers turned to the way I like it, so I haven't listened to any CDs yet, but I love this album. John Rutty was a badass. I love every song on here. Great album. When I get on vinyl, I will most certainly do a meditation with vinyl on this. But this one's kind of hard to get on vinyl. Besides, even the early pressings are hard to get. But the one I want is the 40th anniversary edition with the family tree and the poster and all that. That's come in and out of circulation. One day it'll be in my hands, but right now I don't have it. So for today, we're focusing on the amazing second album, Fly By Night, 1975. This is the very first album to feature Neil Peart on drums, and boy, is it a masterpiece. I mean, just look at the cover. I love the cover of this. This was actually not done by Hugh Syme. That would come later with the Crest of Steel album. But this is a beautiful painting. It's such an iconic image for Rush, too. It really shows the dichotomy of the album, where it's this big, hefty owl, but he's in this majestic, snowy landscape. And as we go down the track listing here, you'll see what I mean. If you heard this album before, you can kind of get a feeling of how the album flows and has its peaks and valleys. And not in a good song, skippable song kind of way, but just in the mood and tone of each of the sides. Record out of the sleeve, just so I can show you guys. And I can't believe I've not done a meditation with vinyl for really any of my Rush albums. I did one on the 40th anniversary of Moving Pictures, the Walmart version, which I really love the sound of that one. I got to put that on next, actually, now that I'm talking about it here. But I want to take the record out of the jacket just so you can see what everything looks like. Beautiful reproduction of the original 1975 version. My only gripe is that I got it with a seam split, or a side split, whatever you call this, a spine split, if you will, which actually sounds kind of badass, but no, I got that, but it's cool. The rest of it looks good. The back again. I love how Geddy is Bytor and Alex is the Snow Dog, because apparently these two guys were fighting over who was going to play guitar in the band originally, so that's kind of where that song came from, and then Neil had some really good lyrics for it, and, you know, the whole thing with the guitar growling, and we'll get to that, but great song. And what I love about this album is that not only is this the first album where Neil is drumming, there's also the first album where he's starting to write lyrics for the guy. So this is really where you get Neil's handwritten lyrics on paper. Even songs that he didn't write, like In the End and Best I Can, he took the time to handwrite those lyrics from what Geddy and Alex had written, and he puts it on here in his own sort of stylistic way with the paragraph separators and all that. And I really love how I show the photo of Geddy here. I think I showed this before in one of my other videos, but I love this photo of Geddy. It shows Geddy ? Like, did Geddy write this? I'm going to credit him, but I'm going to put a question mark just in case it was Alex. I like that. And it really shows his kind of quirky drawing ability. And you guys know I got to show the vinyl off too. This is the 2015 edition, 180 gram vinyl. I would love to own this in the thicker 200 gram vinyl, but those go for some cha-ching. There are a few of them on Rush's website, Rush Backstage, so if you want to buy the 200 gram versions, go on Rush Backstage, but they're asking like 40 bucks for them. And honestly, besides collectability, they're not much different from these. I had a Permanent Waves that was 200 gram, and it didn't really sound much different than the one I have now, so that's kind of more of, say, a collector's piece, or if you really want to splurge and spend extra money, you can do that. I will say, though, for 2112, I know a little secret. The 200 gram copy of that going for a lot of money. But if you go on Amazon or eBay, you can find the 40th anniversary edition on vinyl, and those are all, as far as I'm aware, 200 grams. So, little word to the wise there, and that might pick that up in the future. But getting back to Fly By Night, we kicked the album off with the powerful and anthemic Anthem. And what a killer opener this is. Like, oh my God, I love this. This is one of their best opening songs. I mean, yeah, you have Crest of Steel with Bastille Day. You got 2112. You got Spirit of Radio. A lot of their openers are great. I'd say every Rush opener is fantastic. Even on albums that I'm not the biggest fan of, like Presto, albums like that, still open strong. I mean, Show Don't Tell is one of the best songs they ever wrote in that era, but Anthem is heavy. It's rocking. It's in your face. I love Geddy's bass line. And even the lyrics, which are very Ayn Rand inspired. If you don't know, if you're a new Rush fan, if you're new to the whole mythos of Neil Peart and his writing style, back in the 70s, he was a huge Ayn Rand fan. He loved The Fountainhead and Anthem, and it's kind of what he wrote this song about, the book Anthem. And there's a lot of Ayn Rand worship on here, and that was something of controversy in the 70s, especially on 2112, where people thought that Neil Peart and Rush were like fascists or whatever, so that whole controversy. But besides the lyrics, though, oh man, this song is just so good. And even I like the lyrics, though, but they do paint a picture of selfishness, and like it can kind of come off a little in today's times, but I put all that aside because the music still kicks ass on here. And when it breaks into that middle section with Alex's guitar solo, and you got the drums in the background just slightly pounding away, so getting Alex to have time to jam. It's more of a solo. It's more than a solo. It's like a jam session in this song, which I really like. A lot of good jammy bits on this record. But the solo is just crushing and powerful, especially if you have All the World to Stage, that live version. But the solo, and then you got Geddy's bass in the background too. And this is really where Geddy starts to open up as a bass player. He's great on the debut, but you don't really hear him as much. Maybe besides, I'd say, Working Man. You hear him a lot. He's that little bass breakdown. But here, maybe it's because of the production. And this is Terry Brown's first real record working with the guys. He did mix and master the debut, but that was after it was recorded and that whole thing. And they didn't like how it sounded. But this is really the first album working with Terry Brown. And it shows, man. Terry was just a hell of a producer all throughout the 70s and early 80s working with these guys. And Anthem goes right into Best I Can with that do and that riff. Oh, man. Going from Anthem to Best I Can, what a hell of a flow. This is just a great song about, I'm living my life, I'm doing the best I can. And another song that was written by Geddy and Alex, or actually written by Geddy by himself, it says right here. G. Lee. I like that. G. Lee. G. Lee or Glee. He's a very happy guy. But yes, Geddy wrote this song. And it makes me think, we just did an episode not too long ago on Rush fans. If you guys don't know Rush fans, they're on YouTube, they're on Twitter, everything. All things Rush. So if you want to get into Rush and you don't know a lot of stuff and you want a good community, join the Rush fans community. I was just on there. We did an episode talking about songs that were only written by Ged and Alex, no Neil involvement. And that was a blast because not many people really highlight Ged and Alex's lyrics. Neil's like the big brains of the band, but people forget that Ged and Alex used to write songs before Neil and even after Neil joined. You have great songs such as Lessons from Fly By Night, which is 2112, which was written by Alex. I believe the only song he wrote solo. And then Different Strings from Permanent Waves, my favorite Rush album. And we'll get more into that as I go into the series here, because I'm going to talk about all these albums individually. But Best I Can is such a powerful track with the drum opening, and I really love Neil's passion on here. You can really hear he's got everything to prove in this band. Just from the audition, he comes in, he's just pounding away. It was like Alex said in Beyond the Lighted Stage, the documentary. He played like John Bonham and Keith Moon all at the same time. And you can hear that influence on here. And I hear a little bit of jazzy Charlie Watts on here too in some of the later tracks when the album slows down. But going from Best I Can to Beneath, Between, and Behind, again, another solid rocker. 3 minutes, that's it. The song gets in and gets out like the last one. Just quick fire, one after the other. You can tell I can't snap for crap. But Beneath, Between, and Behind is one of the best songs on here. It's so short, punchy, to the point. It rocks, it kicks ass. I love Neil's songwriting on this one. The solo, the bass playing. But getting back to the lyrics, man, this is a song. This is one of those Canadian songs that kind of pokes at American politics and pokes at American culture. It's sort of like what the Guess Who did in 1970 on American Woman. You think that song's all happy and celebrating American women, but if you actually listen to the lyrics, it's more like, no, it's the exact opposite. And that's sort of what this song does. It's sort of a poking fun at how the American dream was to what it became in the 70s. And again, this was 1975. The guys were barely in their 20s when they recorded this. So just the genius on display from these three guys is just so uncanny. Side 1 closes out with their very first epic, By Tor and the Snow Dog. This track, it just comes out the gate like Best I Can with a drum fill. Geddy's just screaming his banshee vocals away. And going back to the whole guitar battle between By Tor and the Snow Dog, Geddy and Alex. You really get the feeling of that in the middle section. So not only is it a mythical song, but it's kind of like Geddy and Alex are battling for supremacy in the song while Neil kind of stands in the back doing a simple sort of pounding drum beat. So you really everyone gets a chance to shine in here and no one is really overshadowed. which I think is the perfect metaphor for this entire group. And if I had to pick a favorite side on this album, it would definitely be side one. I just love how hard-hitting and punchy everything is on here. Even the middle section in By Tour, when it slows down and quiets down, that's a slight reprieve because it kicks right back up again with more bluesy solos from Alex. You get great drum fills from Neil, and Geddy's just shouting again, and he's just all over the place on the bass. Then we flip it over, we get side two, we get the title track, Fly By Night. This is just a beautiful, wistful sort of folk rock track, all about getting away, wanting to live your dreams. Neil's really in full form here. You can tell he's still a young songwriter, but he is trying really hard to paint a picture, and he does a successful job on this track. I can really picture someone packing up their suitcases and just flying away, wanting to live their dreams. They don't want to be a pawn in this game, they want to be a king. And I really love the solo on here. It's both crushing, but also very melodic, and it's sort of a foreshadowing to the solo in Limelight, which that would be a lot better in the coming years. But I think Fly By Night is just an early showcase of Alex's talent to really play to the song and why he's such an underrated guitar player. Following that, we get Making Memories, a song all about how touring life is awesome. I mean, what's better than that for a rock band? 3 guys on the road, they're in the little van, they're in the little bus touring the world, they're having a great time. This is a really fun and just great track. I love the folky nature of it, where it's very acoustic in the beginning, and then it gets heavy towards the middle, and it's just an extremely playful song. It's one of my favorites on this record. Again, it was written by Geddy and Alex, and funny enough, Neil actually has a credit on here too, so he must have had a little bit in the making of the song, which is interesting looking back in hindsight, because if you watch Time Stand Still, you find out that Neil, he liked playing shows, but a lot like Charlie Watts before him, he wasn't really a fan of the touring lifestyle, which is why you always see him on the motorcycle as opposed to being on the bus or the plane with the rest of the guys. So the song is kind of a farce in a way, but it's still a great and just joyful track. In here that a lot of Rush fans draw a line, sort of like Ty Shan, they say it's either really good or they don't like it that much, and that's Rivendell. I personally like this song. I think it's a great reprieve from the first 6 songs of the album. Yeah, it's a little meandering, it doesn't really go anywhere, there's no powerful solos, but it's just a beautiful song, very folky piece. The huge love letter to Lord of the Rings, which they continue to do on Crest of Steel in a few months after this. So, for me, my verdict is, I love this song. I think it's great. It's a great reprieve. The only thing I don't like about it is if you listen to this on vinyl, even a nice clean vinyl like this, you're going to get a pop or a click once in a while because it's so quiet. But that's really my only complaint. You could say at 5 minutes, it's a little long. You could have cut it down to 3.5, 4 minutes. Maybe add a little bluesy solo in by Alex. But I think the way that they play the song, you don't need a solo on this one, because the guitar playing is just so beautiful and wistful. And I think that would actually take away from just the sheer beauty and just serenity of the track. It's just having it being quiet, I think it just adds to the uniqueness of everything else on the album, because it really stands out like a sore thumb. It's like Walk Away from Black Sabbath's Heaven and Hell, another classic I've been listening to over the past couple of weeks. And when I put that on, I can't wait to blast that too. I'm actually excited to listen to music again, guys. Like, for a long time, I was just so indifferent about listening to music in here because it didn't sound very good. But now that I got my best friend speaker wire here, I can enjoy music again. That side tangent aside, love Rivendell, great peaceful track. Going into In the End, this is one of my favorite Rush closers from back in the early 70s, mid to early 70s. There's just something about In the End. I love how it started with that acoustic guitar. It's a great connection between Rivendell and In the End. They're still very acoustically driven, but as you'll see later on, the song does build and get sort of heavy. So there's not just 2 ballads at the end of the album and it just ends on a flat, dull note. No. In the End is just fantastic. I love the lyrics. This is actually one of the songs that a lot of us in the panel talked about that was written by Geddy and Alex. And it's one of their most well-penned tracks of the entire early era. just love the dichotomy of a relationship between a man and a woman. Or maybe there's someone who has a mental disability and they're trying to understand how this person is feeling, and they do get it, but it takes them a little while longer because of that mental deficiency. Think of Forrest Gump. I always think about Forrest Gump when I hear this track. For whatever reason, for whatever reason, I just hear, whenever I hear this song, I think of Forrest Gump. Think of that what you will, but I also have friends who have autism and mental disabilities, and it's like, yeah, you know, they don't get things as fast as us people do with normal mental capacities. And I brought that up during the roundtable, and I think it was a pretty good point to make. But the lyrics aside, how powerful this track gets in the middle with that da 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 da, and it has that instrumental break and the solo after the chorus is reprised. Oh man, it's so beautiful. Especially the and how it changes octaves, and it flows like a bridge to the very end part. And then when it's all done and the dust settles, it just ends on the acoustic guitar and one more bit of the bridge, and it's done. And it just, Fly By Night closes on such a powerful and uplifting note, and it's just one of my favorite albums of the early 70s. And this is one of those albums where you can pit this up against any album of the early 70s, like Let It Bleed, even, or Let It Bleed was 69, but like Sticky Fingers, or American Woman, going back to Canada, 1970. You can start this up against any 70s album. Bad Company's for a couple of records come to mind, of that prototypical 70s, mid-70s rock. And I think this album stands amongst those as being one of the best records of that era. But what do you guys think of Fly By Night? Is it one of your favorite Rush albums? For me, it's close to being a top 5. It's in my top 10 for sure. I love everything on here, as I talked about earlier. I cannot gush enough about this record, but let me know in the comments below where you would rank Rush's Fly By Night in your Rush ranking. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, share it wherever you can, trying to get my videos out to as many Rush fans, old and new alike, as possible. And if you like what I'm doing, and if you want to hear more about Rush and classic rock, and maybe even a little hip-hop in there, and punk, and just a random assortment of genres, make sure to hit that subscribe button to join our musical monk family. And if you want to get the heads up on when my next videos drop, hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when I upload a new video to the channel. And for all my fellow monks out there, don't forget to keep listening to Rush. And for everyone else, don't forget to keep spinning those discs.